What's up, everyone? I'm finally back with another 50 patch library for Vital. It's actually my first sequel. This time it's Eclectix 2. And I had a surprising amount of success with the first Eclectix. And one thing I really love about this library is that it gives me the freedom to just sit down and make patches because I'm just drawing from a wide variety of different genres of electronic music, from ambient, cinematic, and actually, I was thinking about game scoring a little bit when I started this project, and I kind of like the way that it turned out. So we've got pads, generative sequences, a couple experimental pads in there. I'm just doing all kinds of stuff. So I'm not going to talk too much, just going to start playing the patches. And obviously we have a lot of dreamy pads. Mod wheel. Aftertouch. And I've got some of my own kind of polysynth, old vintage style. They're really synth patches, but there's no synth category. So they're in leads, even though they're not really leads. But anyway. This one uses something called filter bleed. Mod wheel just kind of makes the filter kind of, it just plays around with the filter mix. You can bake that analog character into your patches. See, I've got some presets called out of tune, and the tuning actually, there's tuning inconsistencies up and down the keyboard, just like the classic polysynth patches would do. Like I said, I was thinking about game scoring a little bit when I was doing this. The new Zelda game is out. I just think that's... Okay? It's like hard sync within hard sync. The wavetable is a synced wavetable, and then I'm using the synced phase distortion mode on top of it. Mod wheel. Nice. Okay. And I really like these ones too. Mod wheel. Like I did with the first Eclectix, every once in a while I'll take a sequence and I'll make major and minor versions of it so it'll be useful to you in the context of a mix. This one's minor. Mod wheel. Aftertouch. Okay. And so, playing around with the harmonic series in this one. Aftertouch. Mod wheel. Ooh, I like this one. Mod wheel. As always, my patches are pretty sensitive, pretty velocity sensitive. Get that soft attack. Pretty. And this is a sequence. Plenty of generative sequences, yet again. Mod wheel. And this one. Get sort of a quantization effect with the mod wheel. Okay, it's pretty. This one is a nice atmosphere. Some ringing stuff. That's the mod wheel assignment. That's very cool. Okay, this is a very simple patch. The mod wheel doesn't do much other than kind of bring the sustain up. It's just meant to be just a general purpose string patch. Okay, so the mod wheel just brings the sustain up. Otherwise, it takes like 20 seconds or so. Aftertouch does a kind of vibrato thing, but the vibrato does sound a little strange with high velocity. Something bizarre happens, and I didn't know how to mitigate that. But anyways, I try to do this every once in a while. Nothing beats the real thing, obviously, but in a bind, if you don't have any expensive string libraries, you might be able to just massage that into the mix a little bit. Okay, and I believe, what's that? A bass? Yes, I've got a couple of bass sounds in here. Mod wheel. Aftertouch. Yes, people keep asking me, why don't you do more basses? You're about to find out when I get to a very specific bass patch in here. This is one of the experimental patches. Mod wheel. It can be musical. It can be atmospheric if you want it to be. And there's a second one. I didn't just duplicate it. It's its own patch. They're both very different. They're both programmed differently. Aftertouch. Mod wheel. Okay. Very similar, but different. Mod wheel. That one has a very soothing feeling. Okay. Some vibrato with the aftertouch. Pretty. Okay, I've got some key patches in here. They're very DX style Rhodes sounds. I just really love a good Rhodes, and this one is got a little hair on its chest, especially when you turn up the mod wheel. Mod wheel back down. I wish I was a piano player and I'd play something pretty. I don't have time to learn. I'm too busy with sound design. All right. Mod wheel. Exaggerates that whole fluttering sound. Aftertouch has an effect on the feedback in the flanger, I think. Twinkly bits. I love my twinkly bits. And this one is a cinematic percussion. Mod wheel. Aftertouch. All right. Yeah, I love programming that kind of stuff. All right, another generative sequence. Mod wheel. minor 11 harmony. Very quirky. Another key patch. This one sounds a little strange. Softer attack with the mod wheel. Okay. And this. Mod wheel. A bit clangorous, a little dissonant, but I think it's kind of cool. And another bass sequence. Mod wheel. Aftertouch. A little bit of a noisy rhythmic thing. A little fluttering effect when you release the note. Okay, this is another vintage polysynth. Aftertouch has a vibrato effect. And yet again, I'm using the out of tune presets for the LFOs, and the note kind of sweeps through the LFO phase, so the pitch tracks up and down a little bit differently, just like, or kind of like, voices would do on a classic vintage polysynth. Anyways, moving right along. Another, I think this is a really beautiful atmosphere. Mod wheel. That's a really pretty one. Okay, here's that bass patch that I was talking about. A lot of people ask me, why don't you do more basses? And the reason for that is that, in my opinion, the most useful basses are not really deeply complex patches that you need someone like me to make for you. And this is a good example of that. That's the kind of bass sound that I love. Okay, just old school. Just gets the job done. It's somewhat simple. It does have a little bit of stereo movement. That's supposed to be against the rules, but I found, let me get a drink here, that if you're careful about it, you can get a little bit of stereo movement in there and it'll sound good. What I really like this patch for is for bass arpeggios. Let me turn on my ARP on my controller and let me get 1, 2, 3, 4 tap tempo. Mod wheel. Aftertouch is resonance. Let me latch this so I can play around with my faders. It's just easier to control that way. That's the kind of bass sound that I like. Okay. So the reason I don't make a lot of bass patches is because that's the one I like. I'm not into these neuro basses and all these grimy, growly dubstep things. Not my bag. Okay, it's just not my thing. The basses that I love, dead simple, dead simple. Okay, you don't need me to make those kinds of patches for you because you can dial those in about 5 minutes yourself. Okay, I make complex patches, and yeah, really useful bass sounds. Not really very complex sounds at all. Okay, but I thought I would make one that was the one to rule them all. Okay, all right, moving right along. I think this is a little bit of everything. Okay. The mod wheel. Some vibrato on aftertouch. Okay. Alrighty. Mod wheel. Okay. You might have noticed something as afoot here. We have to talk about the loopholed LFOs. Well, the loopholed mode within the LFOs, which is very cool. And what that is you can have a sequence or something. You can set your tempo. You can have a something happening, and then you can use the phase control to determine the end of the loop. Okay, and it'll just loop around in accordance with the position of the phase control, which is very cool. Okay, but I find that sometimes when you hold a note down a little bit too long, it starts to kind of drift and wander around in an unpleasant way and kind of falls out of sync. And that might have something to do with dotted times. But I don't see dotted times in here. And the reason that I say that because I believe dotted times involve like divisions of 3, and that can create some undesirable results. But for that reason, I say in the patch description, the loopholed LFOs slip out of sync after a few bars, so be sure to retrigger this sequence every now and then to avoid. I call it pitch errors, but I don't really think it's well, those LFOs are doing some things with the pitch. But yeah, just retrigger it every few bars. I think there's another sequence, maybe two more sequences in here that use the loop hold mode. And just know that if you read the patch description, it will tell you you need to retrigger that sequence every once in a while to keep it from falling apart. Okay. So I think this is a pad. Mod wheel. Okay. Very pretty. And this is another generative sequence. Mod wheel. Okay, it's a minor 11. Another pretty mod wheel. Oh yeah, Aftertouch gives you some really interesting textures. Cool. Okay, this is another Rhodes patch. This one's kind of soft. And Aftertouch gives you some interesting kind of noisy little textures. Those textures are easier to notice with the mod wheel up. I like those little noisy textures. It almost sounds like some Foley recording that's in there. Are we? These stacked echoes. I really like these ones. Mod wheel. And of course, there's a minor version of this one. Aftertouch. Really like the way that Aftertouch sounds. Okay, this is another generative sequence. I love my generative sequences. Here, let me just... Some of these are a bit louder than I would have in a mix. In a mix, I would probably have this, like... maybe somewhere down like that. mod wheel. Sometimes if the patch seems a little bit overwhelming to you, just turn it down. Sometimes, yeah, a sequence or something will be a little bit louder than I would ordinarily have it in the mix. And I think the reason I do that is, I don't know, there's so much there's so much pressure to make your patches just loud as hell, and to just use all kinds of compression to just turn it into a giant sausage. You know, the loudness war is still very much a thing. And I don't know, man. I don't think things need to be that in your face. That's just not my thing. So, this one it's like 16 phase modulation assignments. And I'm actually using one LFO and I'm going into the matrix. And you can actually use one LFO and then go into the remapping section. And I'm actually just piling on like the harmonic series via this one LFO to modulate the phase like 16 times. I just did it because I could. Mod wheel. That aftertouch does some kind of interesting thing. Sometimes I have a hard time remembering what I set up. Okay, I've got another sequence here. This is another one that uses the loopholed LFOs, so you have to retrigger this one every once in a while as well. These are sustained chords. They will work in both a minor or a major context. So the mod wheel makes everything kind of softens the attack there. Oh, see, it fell out of sync. You got to retrigger it every once in a while. That's the aftertouch. Okay. Got to retrigger these loophole LFOs every once in a while. So pretty. So pretty. Okay, and this is I believe a bass-esque sequence. Aftertouch. Kind of interesting. Bass-esque. Bass-ish. Okay, this is a very pretty pad. Mod wheel. Okay. So the echoes in this pad are rhythmic, and if you were within your DAW's piano roll and you started the pad just like right on the mark and then you brought in the mod wheel, it would sound something maybe a little bit more like this. Okay. But in a live performance situation, because the delay is just feeding back into itself, it doesn't really sound rhythmic at all. But if you had it in your piano roll and started it right on the mark, and then you brought in the mod wheel, It's just, it would sound beautifully rhythmic. It would sound more like that, okay? Which is a sound that I really love, and I kind of wish that I could get it on the clock, you know? But yeah, in a live performance, it's not going to be like that. Another percussive patch. This one has some melodic. I try to make sure that my bass sequences or my percussive sequences have some sort of melodic thing, something that makes sense up and down the keyboard. Otherwise, it might as well just be a sample. Mod wheel. Aftertouch. Love my cinematic percussion. This is another vintage analog attempt. Resonance is very velocity sensitive, so you can get really juicy with this one. Things get fuzzy with the mod wheel. Okay. And this is my favorite Rhodes patch in this library. Mod wheel. Just kind of brings in that super saw thing. Okay. I just love that sound. And we've got a few more patches here. And mod wheel. And there's a minor version of it. This is another one that's a bit louder than I would have in a mix. I would probably have it about right there. Okay. Yeah. So much happening in this patch. 33 assignments. Some of these patches max out the matrix assignments. I really have a couple of patches in here that are like 64 matrix assignments. But that's one thing I love about Vital is the expansive modulation. I can just go and go and go and go. Okay, so this one sounds a bit strange, especially when you're doing a major thing. Until you bring in the mod wheel in tandem with the aftertouch. Okay, and most people would probably just use the minor version. A little weird. It's a little weird, and maybe it's a bit much. Maybe if we brought down the volume a little bit. like, sometimes a patch just seems like a bit much. Just turn down the volume, all of a sudden, it has a completely different feel to it. Like I said, there's so much pressure to make your patches super loud, maxing out at 0 dB, and I don't get it. I don't get it. Just makes everything sound harsh to me. All right, and this one I've actually used some macros. I've actually used some macros here. I've mapped them to my MIDI controller. And you've got the main melody on macro 1. The kick on macro 2. I need to make more patches like this. Using the macros as kind of like mixer controls. This kind of sidechain pad sound. And then macro 4 is the hats. Okay, and of course, the minor version. Aftertouch. Mod wheel. This is some kind of sync thing. Okay. And the final patch is a nice mod wheel. And there you go, Eclectix 2. I'm really enjoying this series. It gives me the permission to just sit down and make some stuff. And I don't have to worry about adhering to a theme. I can just make patches and enjoy sound design, you know? It's so much pressure trying to sit down and fit your work into some kind of context. I just, yeah, this gives me some freedom, and yeah, I'm really having fun with it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the sound set. Alrighty.